You're about to listen to a brand new episode of the Foreign Lady podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. Now, let's get to the episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Foreign Lady podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and today I have a special guest today. So I met this guest online. I've seen a lot of his videos and they crack me up, but they're also educational. And I thought I should definitely talk to someone who gets it, who understands, like this is the Foreign Lady podcast. So my special guest today, his name is Uche, and I'll let him introduce himself and talk to our audience. So, Uche, take it away. How are
Well,
you
thank
doing?
you. Thank you so much, Liz, for inviting me to your podcast. I'm honored. My name is Uche. I am Nigerian-American. I was born in Nigeria in a beautiful city called Aba in Abia State. And then I migrated to the U.S. at 15 years old, and I lived in America for 17 years. And now I'm currently living in Accra, Ghana. I am a podcaster, a YouTuber, life coach, content creator, a philosopher by way of academia, and a poet, a writer. Yeah, just to name a few. So yeah, that's me.
Just a well-rounded person. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just kind of jump right into it. You kind of told us a little bit, but where you grew up, but how did you get into being a content creator?
You know what, Liz? I'm going to be honest with you. I think a lot of people just get into content creation because it's sort of like something that seems lucrative, when you're online, the doom scrolling thing, and you
Yeah.
see people who make you laugh, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I can make people laugh too, type of thing. But for me, it wasn't like that. I feel like when I first started my YouTube channel about 6 years ago, it was sort of like an outlet for me because I had like so much thoughts bottled up inside of me, always thinking to myself, talking to myself, seeing things that it seems like no one else sees. Like maybe I'm the crazy one. And the guy that I was dating at the time, he passively suggested to create some type of platform, as an outlet. And I started the YouTube, and then from YouTube, somebody recommended that I started, what's it called? A TikTok. And then I had no idea how to work TikTok. I still barely understand how to work TikTok today. I always thought TikTok was something for like kids, you know what I'm saying? But somehow, for some reason, the algorithm seemed to favor me on TikTok. And then from there, my videos started getting traction. People started to relate with my stuff. I am just I'm naturally I have a very unbothered mentality because again, my philosophy runs so deep that I believe that this is not a real place. I'm lucid dreaming. Inevitably I wake up and go home. So I'm just a traveler in this place. So as a result, I don't really take a whole lot of things serious. So, and of course, recognizing my privilege, the entirety of my privilege, the ones I'm able to recognize at the moment. I'm able to speak in a way that, like, it seems to be very different for a lot of Nigerians. They're not used to someone like me speaking the way I speak. So
Yeah.
the things that I say, it's sort of like I show a mirror. I show a mirror to our hypocrisy, our collective hypocrisy, and people find that funny. So that combination with my, the way I speak, the way my philosophy runs, that combination, it just made it so easy to be the perfect recipe for content creation. And people are able to relate to my content and gravitate towards my content. And I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm a full-time content creator now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what sort of drew me to your content was you were speaking the truth, but you made it in a funny way. Like a lot, and it's very hard to sort of do that where it's like, oh my gosh, like I can totally relate to what he's saying, but at the same time, it's like you get it. Like if you get it, you get it type of situation. So I was like, okay, this is awesome. When you first started, what were some of like your biggest challenges of like
Oof.
starting out doing content creation? Like, what did your parents say? What did your friends say? What did your community say?
I am a loner. I've talked about that so many times. I don't know how much of
Okay.
my
I
content
think I
you've
missed
seen.
those videos. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a loner. I have no one really, like I don't have any deep connection with most people in this world, apart from, some type of relationship that I have with my sisters. They do support me, they respect me, and I respect them too. But outside of that, I really, my philosophy, like I mentioned, runs very deep. And I've been doing this for a long time in the sense that I walk this earth alone, like I've never really felt connected with people. Same thing with my parents. I've always said that I'm not my parents' child. I've never felt like that. I felt like this is Uche. Uche is a loner. He's meant to walk this earth alone. So I've never really cared much about what people said. I've always been the weirdo ever since I was a kid. And I've mentioned this so many times on my platforms. It feels like I'm watching a movie. It's like a movie that is very predictable. It's entertaining. It's annoying. It's exciting, but it's still a movie nonetheless, which it's like, you know, how you sit in your living room watching a movie, but this is 4D, you
Yeah.
know, and you are part of it. You're participating. You're able to touch and smell and feel, and it's cool. But then it's also like, yo, no one else sees this. So it's sort of like it's funny and fun for me in a way. And the challenge is just being that weirdo that people just like look at you like, what? Can I curse
What the
here?
heck?
Can I curse here?
Yes. Okay. I can't tell you. I'm,
So
yes.
just being that weirdo, like, what the fuck is wrong with them? Like, so, and just talking my shit online. And, I never thought, I remember when I first started my TikTok, I promoted it on Instagram. I had zero followership whatsoever, and then I had my first followership, first follower, and then the second follower. I'm like, oh shit. By the time I realized, oh, people can actually relate to this. I'm not batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just being that weirdo in my own weird little corner, just like, completely oblivious as to what's happening in the world. As long as I'm concerned, it's all a movie. I'm just enjoying this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back a little bit about what it was like to grow up in, like, in Nigeria. So I was born in Nigeria in Lagos, but my family moved here when I was 5. And I've been back 2017. It was definitely a culture shock for me. Definitely a different vibe, a different experience. But, growing up until you were, 15, you were in your teenage years, and what was that like?
It feels so far away,
Yeah.
yet so close. It was just, I'm trying to be careful with my words here.
Yeah.
It's always felt the same. Like, if it felt the same, it feels like that was just happened yesterday,
Mhm.
yet not really yesterday. It's always felt like a movie. I remember when I was a kid, I remember maybe like 4 or 5 years old, I just remember saying, I don't like these people. I just remember saying, I think I was about 6 years old when I said, look at because my grandparents, my mother's parents raised me till I was 10,
Okay.
I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to be like these people when I grow up. I just don't like them. It's not that I hate them, but there's this thing, as of course, as a kid, I try to understand it with a kid's mindset, but now as an adult, I understand it better, especially studying now. But there's just this collective mediocrity that I saw everywhere. It was just so lame. It's just lame. Everything was just so lame. Like, why are you doing this? Why are we going to church and then talking shit about our neighbor? Like, but then y'all
Okay.
make so much big deal of this. I think my OCD also notices these things. Like, why are we dropping trash on the floor? Why are we, why are we doing that? And I always enjoy speaking Igbo, even as a kid, in speaking Igbo in school, in primary school. Like, why are you speaking Igbo? Yeah, speaking vernacular, and they'll flog you. I'm like, why? But I'm Igbo in my
Yeah.
country. Like, what's wrong with you? I remember one class that, it's an English class. So we had the regular English class and then we had the oral English class to teach us how to speak like Oyibo. And I'm like,
Jesus.
why are we doing this? So there's just this, I didn't know how to articulate it back then, but it was just a collective mediocrity that I saw. And it's just like, this is just so lame. And then, of course, I've been humbled to the point where I'm able to see it from a totally different perspective, that a lot of this is not our fault. There's a lot of white supremacy and colonization that has been passed down on us that we still are yet to overcome. And that has created a deep sense of empathy, hence why I give back now with my message.
I totally get it. I think, look, I love my people, right? But I think we are very hypocritical people. Like you said, you be the same one going to church, and then the aunties would be talking, talking shit about you, talking shit about, like, and I'm just like, really? Like, the hypocrisy is too much. And it's like, I think what I struggle with is support. Like, we look at other cultures, other people, and I feel like as Nigerians, we don't really support each other. I feel like there's a lot of, like, everything has to be like a competition, or everything has to be like, this is my favorite, this is what it's just go do. It's like, really? Tell me how you did this, or tell me what I can do, or tell me this. No, it's just go do. And it's like, that's not an answer. So, like, being I want to sort of talk, get into the the nitty-gritty with you of like, being LGBTQ, right?
Yes.
I know you said you don't really care about what others think, but when did you first come out as an LGBTQ person?
I never did. So
Okay,
I've talked about this on my podcast in a sense that it took me a while to realize that
please
I was
plug
gay.
your podcast so people can go listen as well.
Yes, yes. My podcast is Let's Talk About Us with Uche. You can find it on YouTube and also all podcast platforms. So it took me a while to realize that I have a level of privilege that I didn't realize that I had, and a lot of people don't have. And this is, I feel protected. I feel like as though I was protected as a child that a lot of people don't have. So you see generational trauma, the way generational trauma is passed down from generation to generation. I feel like it skipped me because of
Mm,
how I was raised. So when I was born, my parents, my dad was already living in the U.S. and then my mom, well, at the age of 5 months old, moved to the States, and I was raised by my grandparents at the age of 10. And grandparents raising you versus your parents raising you are not the
completely
same.
different.
Exactly. So as a result, I feel like there's a lot of times when grandparents are raising a child, they raise a child in the way that they believe that they should have raised their child because
Mm-hmm.
they have now learned better. So as a result, there's a lot of pain that generational pain that did not transfer to me as a kid, And as a result of that, I was given a safe room to form a healthy sense of self and also a sense of the world. So I have never really, as a kid, never felt inferior at all. I have never felt like I was not good enough as a kid. I was able to see and articulate in a way that is, of course, natural to me as a kid back then. So for me to see the collective mediocrity that I was talking about.
So basically, they saved you some money on some therapy.
Yeah, but
Okay.
eventually the therapy
Okay.
came, Chad.
Okay.
One thing about this life, everybody will collect. We will all collect. But so as a result, I had a sense of my deep attraction to masculinity as a really young age. It was not anything I thought I had to come out of or even question about accepting. I just liked dudes.
Yeah.
I like the boys, I like the vibe, I like, it wasn't even to do much with them. It's just sort of like that energy, being that affinity towards that collective is what I enjoyed. So because I never had that pain being passed down to me of questioning myself, I had the sense of, okay, well, that's what I am. This is what it is, and it is what it is. And the same thing too can be translated to other aspects of my life, not even just sexuality. Like being Igbo, I've never been ashamed of being Igbo. Or being Ungwa, I've never been ashamed of being Ungwa. Or being me or looking the way I look or whatever the situation is. My grandparents just gave me that safe haven for me to, form that healthy sense of self. So I never had to officially come out to any per se. But now, of course, as a content creator, yes, I have videos where I am dedicating entirely to my sexuality, making it known like, yes, you are enjoying my content, which I appreciate, but I'm still a queer man. It is very important that we deconstruct this idea of what queerness is as something negative. So yes, I'm having to come out all the time to remind people because people can easily forget.
You mentioned something about like being like your Igbo-ness. This is something because I didn't grow up in it. Is that still a thing? The tribalism?
Sure.
Really?
Nigerians. Come
Okay.
on now,
Jesus.
sis. That's what we do.
Okay. I mean, I would have thought like that would be because look, my sense of reference is what I see in movies and, and like just friends and family in general. But I would have thought that by now we would have gotten rid of that whole like, Yoruba versus Igbo versus Hausa versus this one and that one and like, and everybody is just mixing.
No. That ain't going nowhere anytime soon.
Well, unless maybe we're breaking a law by doing this, but it's okay.
They be all right.
They'd be all right. All right. So let's go back to I want to say one of the first sort of queer people that I ever saw was Bobrisky. This was years and years ago. I think this was like at the beginning of her transition. And I think at that point she was still saying, oh, this is for entertainment, this is for this was, and even till now, I don't think she ever really owns being a trans woman, which I think it's a shame, you know? And I understand she's a target and our people are still flawed and all that, but why do you think a lot of people are still afraid to share their queerness with people and like you just don't give a fuck?
Well, it is important to admit, or at least to mention, that Bobrisky does not represent the entire queer collective in Nigeria.
Yes,
Bobrisky,
yes.
Bobrisky represents Bobrisky. And I've done a couple of episodes talking about Bobrisky as what Bobrisky is. Bobrisky is a businesswoman. Okay? Get your coins, sis. You see a sucker, when you see a sucker, you pick it up and you lick it. And our collective mediocrity and self-inflicted pain and hypocrisy is what feeds Bobrisky and Bobrisky's likes. Okay, because you
So
want
sorry,
you,
sorry to cut you off, but those of you who don't know, our American audience, Bobrisky is a Nigerian trans person.
yeah, Bobrisky is playing the game, and I cannot blame Bobrisky. Do your thing, sis. Get your coin. You know what I'm saying? Because I think she has, she does address herself as she, and I've seen a couple of videos here and there where
She's done it now. I feel like recently she's like, I'm now she. Don't call me Bob anymore. Call me, I think it's like Olashade or whatever the name is. But
Idris.
no, she said don't call her Idris anymore. Yeah. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, Bobrisky, like if you come out and tell people you're black or white, then it's no longer as hot anymore. So you
Yeah.
gotta give them like, is it black? Is it white? Is it gray? What is it today?
Yeah.
So that's what made Bobrisky famous, because our people, we don't like to mind our business. Anybody else's business. Your hairline is disappearing, though, but it's Bobrisky. Your stomach is growing, but it's Bobrisky. Potholes in Nigeria, Bobrisky. No electricity, Bobrisky. Boko Haram, Bobrisky. Politicians embezzling money,
Everything,
Bobrisky. So Bobrisky, get your coin, sis.
So you think that she's just doing it for money, and she's not really trying to be like a queer representative or have queer representation or anything like that. Just strictly business.
Not necessarily. I think at some point Bobrisky has tapped into the frequency of Bobrisky to understand that this is Bobrisky. This is why I was born. This is what it is. Sort of like me, for example. And it takes a deep level of stillness for you to be able to see it. Like, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but like the part of what gives me the audacity to do what I do online, because this is Uche. This is it. This is literally why I was born. This is it. I cannot be anything else outside of Uche. There's no one like me, and it's impossible for somebody else to be like me, and vice versa. And Bobrisky is tapped into the exact same thing too. Matter of fact, anyone who is quote unquote successful taps into that frequency. It is a beautiful feeling of tapping into, this is it. I cannot be it. That thing that makes you unique, Bobrisky, it, of course, possibly something that she started as, like, hey, I'm going to, just do like a little content. And then from there, it blew up. And then from there, she saw the opportunity. Like, yo, this is it for me. Sort of like with me, I was online, just ranted and just talking my shit, because it's sort of like therapy for me. And I'm like, yo, people are actually receptive to this. This is Uche. Now, I am blessed in the sense that I don't have to be anything else but myself. I don't have to switch anything. I don't have to do anything. I just am. But this is also in parts because of the privilege that I was born with. But Brisky had to do what she had to do, in order for her to get to where she's at. So this is why she is quote unquote successful, because she's leading into her truth, because this is what she was born to do. It is what it is. So yes, what is Bobrisky? A businesswoman, an attention seeker, a trans person, a Yoruba woman, a Nigerian, all those things. Those are just amalgamation. I think that's what the word, of frequencies to form this phenomenon that we perceive as a human being occupies space and time. And she's made peace with it.
Yeah, but why do you think that there are still a lot of Nigerian queer people who are not as bold in coming out of their queerness, right? Like Swanky is one of them. I don't know if Swanky is gay, straight, bi, whatever, right? And there's quite a few of them who are just, or like to be ambiguous. Like, I think this whole like ambiguity of like, well, you don't know what I am, so you can't, put whatever on me, or I can't fall into this hole or this trap or whatever it might be. And it's like, well, why is it still so hard for a lot of them, or a lot of Nigerians especially, to sort of own that and come out, just be like, that's me, this is who I am.
And also to the audience listening, for the record, we're not saying that Swanky is anything, though. We're not
Please,
saying
I'm not saying
we're
that.
not
Oh
saying
Jesus.
anything. No, that was a typographic error. Hey, father.
Echo, I didn't say that though. I'm just giving an example.
Hey,
I didn't say
but
that.
but anyway, going back to what you said, and I think it depends on how you define being bold. Because, like I've always said on my platform, the world is a game, and the smartest people win. Okay, you don't have to open your mouth and tell people that you are queer. You don't, especially when you are playing a certain kind of game. Part of what makes you Nigeria is tough. I think a lot of people forget that. Like, it's not like America. Yes, the pool is saturated in America, but Nigeria, to make it in Nigeria, you have to play different type of game. And, if that game that you're playing means being effeminate, being flamboyant, but never actually ever opening your mouth to say it, then get your coin. Do what you do. Everybody knows who goes to the market, where they go to the market, and when they go to the market. We all know ourselves. But you know that if you open your mouth and say,
Hey, while I did.
Nigeria. And these are things too that a lot of people, queer people who are abroad, like you and I, have to understand that there is a lot of privilege attached to the dual citizenship that we enjoy. I don't live in Nigeria. I don't make my money in Nigeria. Nigerians don't put money in my bank account. So it is very easy for me to be loud with my rainbow flags and things like that. Because at the end of the day, if you cut me off, shit, my rent is still paid. It is what it is. But if your payment, your rent, your livelihood, your money, your income comes from the people that you know are very homophobic, you have to play a different type of game, and that's okay. Um, and coming out should be something. It should be a personal thing for you to let people into your personal space when you are ready, when you are comfortable, and that's okay.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I think maybe that's also like my privilege showing as well, of like, hey, why don't because again, I lived here in America all my life, right? And it's like, I don't care, be who you are. Like one of my friends in high school was gay. I've been introduced to the culture since high school. So to me, it's like, well, I don't care. Like I love you however you are, whatever, it's like I don't shame you. I don't care. Like, do you, boo? So I also have to understand, like, not a lot of people feel that way. And even here in America, right? Like there's still a lot of LGBTQ and queer folks that are continue to be marginalized, a lot of trans people that are continue to be marginalized. And I have to understand that as a straight person, that I enjoy a certain privilege as well, and not everybody has the same mentality or thinks the way that I do. So yeah, that totally makes sense. My next question for you is, how do we begin to change? Do you think Nigerian Nigeria in general will begin to have a different perspective in the way they look and think about things? Because it is still a very traditional and conservative country. Um,
Yeah.
and for it to be such a Christian country, majority Christian country, let me say, because there are other, there are Muslims and other types of religion there as well, but majority Christian country, the way we act, I don't think that's written in the Bible. Okay. It just isn't. And so for us to be quote unquote Christians and we over here still judging people and not minding our business and like still being very close minded, do you think a time will come where perspectives will begin to change? Or are we still having this mentality of, well, they need to stop trying to be like the Western countries. They need to stop being like, Western this, like, we're Nigerians. This is what we do. So stop trying to be like Oyinbo. Stop trying to do this. Is that constantly going to be our perspective on things?
I do believe that Nigeria will get better inevitably. Matter of fact, not only do I believe that Nigeria will get better, I think Nigeria will get so much better beyond your wildest dreams, like in a way that you would even begin to even imagine it. And this is my sense of spirituality speaking. I think in order for that to be, things have to get much worse. And things are that bad in Nigeria right now. It's going to get worse, much, 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 much worse. And I think what is holding Nigeria down is the dependency on the West. I believe that the average Nigerian does not believe in Nigeria. We say we do because
But
we
we
like to
don't too.
talk. We
I
like
mean,
to
you got
talk.
these politicians who are sending their kids, like their kids have, okay, there's no way you are a president of Nigeria and your child has an English accent. Like, why?
Idea, I'm telling you, we have a collective hypocrisy in our country. Like all of us, we are doing nonsense and rubbish.
You're not
Everybody's doing
even raising
nonsense.
your children in the country.
Everybody is doing that. We all know that there's nonsense and rubbish. All of us, we know. But there's this, the religious, this religious misalignment pacifies us from our pain. But that's okay because there's still this tiny bit of hope that we have because we keep looking at the West. And I do believe that the West is falling and the West will keep falling. And the more the West keep falling, the more that enchantment or charm wears off. And it will force us to sit with our filth, with our pain, with our suffering, and then we will do something about it. And I do believe that's what's holding Nigeria. I don't think right now, with our pacification from religion and also the dependency on the West, I don't think we have what it takes to turn things around yet. But with the West falling and things turning around, eventually Nigeria we will be forced to sit with ourselves and do something because you will have no choice. It's either you evolve or you die. That's it.
Do you think, well, I think clearly leadership has a lot to do with it, right?
Hmm.
Like, I don't want to claim to know a lot about Nigerian politics because I do not. But from the little that I do know that leadership has a lot to do with it. And so, do you think that we need to find leaders that are willing to step into the 20, was it 20, are we 21st or 22nd century? Whatever century we're in right now. We need to find leaders that are of the youth age, like even in America, right? There's no reason why my great grandfather is making laws for me. Like, they can't relate to me. They cannot relate to what I'm going through. So why are you making laws that, like, I wasn't even alive when you were in high school? Do you think that it's time for the leadership to change and for the youth to rise up and start taking charge of their own destiny? Because I've heard it from my parents. Nigeria would change, Nigeria would change, Nigeria would change. And it's like, it ain't changing.
Getting
It's still
worse.
there.
Yeah. Um, I think blaming the leaders is the easy culprit. It's so easy for everybody. Politicians, the president, this and that. And yes, it is very true that leadership definitely has some type of has a lot of influence on the way things are. But I like to focus away from the leadership more and focus more on the individuals. I think the change begins with the individuals themselves because the leadership is a representation of the collective. The average Nigerian is pissed off at the leadership because really it comes from a place of jealousy. The reason why you're angry at the leader is because you don't have the privilege to be able to do what they're doing. Really, it's not because you care. If you take an average Nigerian now from Lagos or from Kaduna, from any one of those places and make them president, they'll do the exact same thing, if not worse. And this is not to get the fact that possibly this person would say, no, go for Pluto, I'll do better. Yes, perhaps that's what you want to do. You want to do better. But when you get there, you come to realize that there are strings of systems keeping people like that. This is intentionally created to keep you perpetuating the downfall of not just, Nigeria, but Africa or in general, because it's built to uplift white supremacy. There's a reason why these systems are created. There are people who created these systems, and they thoroughly, intentionally created these systems to keep us oppressed. Because the more in slumber we are, the more somebody's capitalizing off of our emptiness. So it's not necessarily the leaders per se, but the systems that have created those leadership and put them there and continue to milk us of our life essence. So unless the average individual changes their mindset, then it will not work. It will not work because the leadership is a direct representation of the people themselves. If we start working on ourselves, like Bible said, you are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men that they'll see your Father in heaven and glorify him. By me shining, I light you up, and then you light the next person up, and then you light the next. By the time we're all lit up, and then together we're able to stand together because, like the Igbos would say, we're stronger together. And then one person, all it takes is one person or a couple of people to be in the leadership position from that glow. You understand. But if all of us are dim, the only thing that would represent us will be dimness. It always will be. And because we're all dim, we wouldn't even recognize light because the people of this world cannot recognize light. This is why they killed Jesus. This is why even the Bible said that, they will insult you, they will fight you in my name because the people of this world do not understand that at all. They don't understand empathy. They don't understand oneness. It's just the ego has come in to divide and conquer. And I know I sound very preachy right now.
No, please, please. I love it.
We are high on ego, and the ego just divides us and, keeps us divided. so that we can be separated to keep feeding these systems. So, but unless we start working on ourselves, and working on ourselves means being humble, something that's very difficult for a lot of Nigerians, especially Nigerian
Very,
men. Be
very. We
humble.
gonna talk about Nigerian men, okay? We getting
Sure.
we getting there.
And then once we start being humble, then our mentality, once we start being humble, our mentality, our collective mentality will start shifting. And then that can translate into leadership.
All right, before we get into like relationship stuff, I want to just put a button on this topic about Nigerians living abroad and Nigerians Nigerians feeling like the only way you could make it is if you're living in America, London, or somewhere, right? Like you cannot make it in Nigeria unless you're abroad. And then the ones that are abroad, they want to flex, they want to act like they living their best life, and yet they over here in a studio apartment. They're working 60 hours. They could barely pay their rent. But yeah, they go back and they over here flexing like they got it like that. Why?
We thank God. Um, well, like they say, empty barrels make the loudest noise. Again, these are things that I saw as a kid that made me say I don't like these people. But of course, as I've got older, I understand. I understand, it's not our fault entirely. This is all trickle down effects of colonization, white supremacy. It's not our fault. These people came into our lands and broke us spiritually. They broke us and they told us that we're not good enough. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not good enough in this lifetime. We're not good enough in the afterlife. And if you want to make it in the afterlife, you better hold on to white Jesus. You better be loud and
Why Jesus?
prove to white Jesus that you are enough to make it into white supremacist heaven. So you see a lot of this in the way we act, the things that we glorify, even
Yeah.
the women that we pedestalize is light
Yes.
skinned, biracial, racially ambiguous. Mercedes, Peugeot used to be a Nigerian product too. Went out of
Mm,
business. Now it's the Mercs, BMWs and Porsches. These are
yeah.
white, everything white. It just is. You're not educated in Nigeria unless you speak English with an American or British accent too. Your
Absolutely.
education in Nigeria is literally trash unless you have left Nigeria to go to America to help your destiny. If not, you're going to be driving Okada. You understand?
Jesus.
It's not our fault. It really is not. But it's just, what's frustrating for me is
It's
just
what
the
we've been
lack of,
perpetuated to think that we need.
but we can fight this by just being humble. When you're still, like the Bible says, to be still and know that I am God. If you're humble, you start to see it. The illusion of this place will start cracking in front of you. You start to see it. And this is what capitalism wants to avoid, because capitalism wants to give you so much noise to keep you just running. Because the more you make noise, the more they give you this, the more they give you that, and you're just so distracted with so much you don't see it. And because you don't see it, their ego feeds off that arrogance, and someone is capitalizing off of you. This is why the rich keeps getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, because of our arrogance. But in humility, you come to see it. Humility. That's why the Bible said, remove the speck in your eye first before you come for somebody else. But we're trying to remove the one in somebody else's eyes. Because what happens is that if you focus on your speck to remove the speck in your eye, you sit with that speck, trying so hard to remove it, and eventually you come to realize, oh shit, this is not a speck. No, this is actually part of me.
Yeah.
There's no speck. This is me. And then you humanize yourself by accepting it. And then you look at your brother and be like, oh shit, that is also you. So you extend that humility to your brother. So you don't see that as a speck anymore. You don't see that as inferior anymore. That thing you were trying to correct, you see it as that is them. Just like the one that you're trying to remove is also you. You make peace with yourself. You make peace with your brother. You become 1 + 1 = 1 with your brother and with other people. This is how you form community, based on empathy. And then nothing can break you from your brother. When that thing comes to capitalize off of you and your brother, all of you come together and beat their asses, because now you're stronger together. But
Yeah.
as long as we keep in our ego and our arrogance, fighting each other, pointing fingers at each other, this is indicative that the ego has a strong hold on us. And it's not entirely our fault, because someone came into our land, wiggled their way into our heads, and told us that we're not good enough. And this is what
Yeah.
we perpetuate even to today.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even with like, when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Nollywood movies with my mom.
Mhm.
And I stopped for a while, but I think I've gotten back into them now. And they've definitely changed from when I used to watch it as a kid till now. For example, a lot of the storylines, I'm like, that's an American movie. You know, I'm like, wait, I know the exact movie and plot line. Y'all just scooped out. Or, you know, now there's this like big controversy of like, you know, kissing. A lot of Nollywood movies back then, there was no kissing, no sort of sexual anything. And now, you know, I'll go online and I'll see comments from people who are like, well, why y'all trying to be westernized? Why, you know, what's up with all this kissing? What's up with all this sexual stuff? You're not telling Nigerian stories anymore. You're ripping storylines from other industry movies. Like, we need to keep it in Nigeria. I don't know if you've sort of heard about the controversy or anything like that, but why is it that we just cannot appreciate our own? I mean, Nigeria is full of stories and people that are beautiful and smart and intelligent, and I'm like, they can come up with so many stories. Like, we have our own stories that we can tell. We don't have to rip off other people's. But what is this thing we have with Western culture that we have to like now embed it into something that we can't even have for ourselves?
Again, like I said, a lot of it is inferiority complex.
Yeah.
But first of all, I do want to also say shout out to some of the Nigerian producers who are telling our stories. They're not
Yeah.
very common, but
Not
yes, there are
all.
some production. There
Yeah.
are some productions that have definitely captured a lot of what makes us us. You know, whether it's the Igbo culture, the Yoruba culture, the Hausa culture, all the other cultures, telling our stories. They're very unique. You know, like capturing our names. You know, not Kimberly and Josh. You know what I mean? Shout out to all the Kims out there and the Joshes out there. You know what I'm saying? But like with that ethnic presence, so yeah, those do exist. And I'm grateful when I see them. But I also think because Nigeria is in the limelight right now, there's a time where everybody and their mama is excited to be Nigerian. You see
Right?
how, even the Black Americans when they do their ancestry
They all
thing and
Nigerian.
everybody and their mama is Nigerian now. So I feel like this is a time that Nigeria is hot, with the Afro beats, there's so many Nigerians abroad, especially migrating to the Americas or having their kids in America and things like that. So our presence is known everywhere. And there's this hunger to capitalize off of that, to give them what they want. But with that inferior to give the international,
Yeah. They're trying to
what
make
they
it more
want.
broad, and I get that. I get it.
Yeah. But with that inferiority complex, you're thinking that what they want is a taste of themselves. No, no, no. What they want is a taste of what makes us us, what makes us
Right.
unique. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because they want to see, like, yo, these people are also thriving in their own way. They want to see that uniqueness. They want to see what makes us, like, for example, I'm Igbo. I speak Igbo. A lot of people who don't understand Igbo will see that like, yo, that is so dope. That is, because the way I speak it with confidence, like there's something about that, like, yeah, this is dope. Let me know more about you. Let me know what you bring to the table. You stand out because you are one of the infinite faces of God. But imagine if I walk in the room sounding like everybody else. Or even matter of fact, the assumption that I know what everybody else wants from me, that is also arrogance because you don't know anything. You don't know. You have no idea. Knowledge is a very illusory thing.
Power.
Yeah, it's a very illusory thing in the sense that I have the audacity to think that I know what they want, but God's divine power has given me what I ought to walk into that room with or as, and all I have to do is just be what God has brought me into this world to be. So as a Nigerian or as a Nigerian writer or a Nigerian movie producer, telling the stories around me, the stories that make, that seem more close to home. That comes more natural. That should come more natural,
Yeah.
as opposed to you having the arrogance to assume that you know what the people they want because you're giving them a taste of something that
They've already seen.
exactly. And what they've seen is a version of it that is more authentic and genuine to the people who produced it. So you're just going to be a copy. And copies are never the original. You will just fall flat. As opposed to you telling your own originality and your own boldness and your own confidence and just, they'll see one of the infinite faces of God through you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's shift some gears here. Let's talk about some boys. So I don't date Nigerian men.
Voila.
I avoid them, honey, okay? Because
Sure.
I know their wala is too much. What? Okay. But it just seems like you said, Nigeria has sort of we've embodied like everybody wants a Nigerian man at this point, right? I get that. I think I understand the fascination with Nigerian men and why women want to date them. I just don't think I think they're very arrogant. I think they still have their, this old mindset of a woman has her place. And even though, they want to, I do agree, agree that they are, some of them are providers and they want to provide and all of that. I just still think that their mindset is just still very ass backwards.
Yeah. Girl, I agree with you. And I'm a Nigerian man. I've
Not
been
to
honest about.
mention, sorry, not to mention the polygamy of it all, right? Like that still exists too, where it's like maybe not marry like 10 different women, but the fact that they still have this mentality of, well, I can have as many women as I want as long as I can take care of her.
Yeah, yeah, we have to be specific about this polygamy too, because I feel like a lot of people won't even understand what you mean by
Okay.
polygamy in the sense that when you say polygamy, I think a lot of people will think officially marry, like some of the old uncles
Okay, not
marrying
the old,
multiple
no.
wives.
Yeah.
No,
No.
the polygamy of today's day and age that's going on right now is when a Nigerian man will have a wife and children in Nigeria and then go to America, marry another wife out. To them, there's nothing new. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, yeah, nah, we can't do that. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, on average, Nigerian men are some of the most beautiful men on the
They
planet, in my
are.
opinion.
They are.
They're very good looking, and this is because we have so much varieties in Nigeria. Anything you want to see, you see it. Tolo, shorto, dako, lighto, brown skin, everything, you'll find it. Unfortunately, I feel like our mentality does not match our physicality. And for my ability to see the physical beauty in my people, to me, is indicative that there's something beautiful hidden underneath, meaning that we are not walking in our full essence yet. We're still babies. And it's not our fault. And I have to remember, I have to give myself grace and I have to give my people grace. I believe that we have what it takes to shake this planet in a way that has never been seen. But we must be humble. That humility. And because men on average, benefit from patriarchy more,
Yeah.
the illusory promise of patriarchy as opposed to women who are further away from patriarchy, the tentacles of patriarchy, it's easier for a woman to let go. Because for a woman, she has a lot more hoops. Patriarchy tells a woman that unless you have a man, you're not good enough. And then it will be a woman who's a pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. And then she comes to realize these men ain't shit.
They
And then
sure ain't.
and then eventually you just let go. And once you let go, the illusion wears off. But with men, it's harder because men are
Yeah.
closer to that promise. So it's harder for a man to let go. And that arrogance, and also our collective pain as Black people, most especially African people, because there's levels to being Black chair.
There
But
is.
there's this hunger to just hold on. Like if I hold on just a little bit more and go to church on Sunday, maybe God will send me my own millions. And it just I just can't. So as a result, just me and you, I just admire from afar, and yeah, we thank God.
All right. So I want to talk about, I think our parents' service by not talking to us about sex when we're younger.
Yes.
I did not get the sexual conversation. I think for a lot of us, and even till now, right? Like being like talking about it, it's still very like, oh, we don't talk about it, right? Like you don't talk about stuff like that. I try to be different with my own kid in that way of like, hey, we're very open. We're going to talk about this, and I'm hoping that you can talk to me about this either with no shame involved, because it's not a shameful thing. And a lot of us are not in tune with our sexuality of what we want, right? Whether it's a man, woman, both in between, whatever. There's still a lot of shame in talking about that. And I saw that in one of your videos, and I was like, that is so true. Why even now is it still such a taboo conversation to talk about, not only for the education piece of it, right? But making people feel like their sexual urges or the way they feel about sex is wrong, or it's shameful, or it's like it's only done when you're married and that's it, and it's only done for procreation. We don't talk about women pleasure. We don't talk about there's a lot of male pleasure, but we don't talk about like women pleasure or other types of pleasure or whatever it might be. And why do you think we're still very much closed-minded in that aspect of it? Is it religious reasons, or is it just that's just the way our people are and that's how we're going to be from now till the day we see Jesus?
I don't necessarily think it's just religion per se, but I think it's just what happens with the egoic mind fighting the human nature, the fallible, fallen human nature. This is also what happened in the Garden of Eden. You know, when Adam and Eve came to see that they're naked and they felt shame. So anything to remind us our fallen nature, as long as we are in tune with the ego or the egoic mind, it will always create shame. So it's not just sexuality, just everything in general. There's a reason why we don't talk about, or for example, with women, natural hair, or your weight or your age or, being embarrassed that to admit that you take a shit, things like that. These things that make us human. We don't talk about these things because it's a reminder that we are nothing. And the egoic mind is like, no, 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 I cannot be nothing. No, I am something.
Yeah.
Do you know who I am? So and that sexuality is even a more deep and personal reflection of that human nature, because you're naked, you're vulnerable. That is the entirety, especially considering how very vain we are as human beings. Everything is just so physicalized. So the aspect of yourself with literally no clothes on, getting intimate with another person, that is the highest level of vulnerability anyone can attain. And there's a lot of shame attached to it. So don't talk about it, because talking about it means that you're accepting that you are human. You are that fallen thing that needs to be, that is deserving of shame. That's why we don't talk about it. And our parents lack humility to admit this. They lack humility, they lack the simplicity to admit this. And they try to brush it over with all kinds of things like religion. Religion, of course, has become the easiest go-to when it comes to sexuality, which is fine. But also the issue that I have with religion, especially Abrahamic religion in Africa, is how it came to Africa. It didn't come as a tool of morality to help us out. It's more so a capitalistic tool
Yeah,
to keep you dormant, to keep you
absolutely.
pacified while somebody's robbing you. So of course, because there is no explicit, discussion on sexuality, the nuances of sexuality as humans, are human sexuality in the Bible, there's a lot of gray areas. There's a whole lot of gray areas in the Bible. The Bible just talks about sex, man, woman, not even man, woman, chat. It's like sex, husband, wife, period. That's it. So if it does not conform to husband, wife, period, we don't talk about it. We don't know. We don't know. It's okay to admit that we don't know, but it's the arrogance to assume that you know better, and then you're calling out somebody else for their sexual immorality while you're addicted to porn, while
Mm,
you can't stop jerking off, while
mm,
you have so much roses hanging in your fucking, cupboard. You know what I'm saying? You cheating on your wife with all these hoes on Bisonet, you know what I'm saying? Or you sleeping with the pastor because your husband can't get it up. All
mm.
kinds of nonsense. But
Absolutely.
but you see a gay person, oh, they're the problem because they are the
Right.
more sinful person. See a prostitute on the side of the road, they're worse than me. Because that is very obvious, very, very obvious, not in alignment with what that Bible said about husband and wife.
Right.
Mine is okay because, I'm doing it in secret and, that's okay. I think again, going back to that collective hypocrisy and lack of humility, because again, going back to the pointing at the specks in somebody's eyes, if you start looking at the speck in your eye, you sit with it. It will take you a long time, but if you sit with it, you try so hard to remove it. You try, you try, you try, you try, you try, you try. You come to find out you cannot remove it. Well, this is me. This is human.
Yeah.
This is what it means to be human, and you make peace with it. And automatically, by making peace with it, you start to see the same speck on other people. You come to see, yo, this is human, and we humanize each other. There is no speck, and we are one. You come to see that this is what it means to be human.
I think there's two sides to this. Of we have the traditional quote unquote man and woman piece of it, and then we also have the queerness and the queer piece of it, right? And I think for me, it's look, sin is sin. It doesn't matter which, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like your sin is not bigger than my sin because I'm sleeping with whoever you don't approve of. And I think what a lot of people, especially who sort of they like to quote that Leviticus verse, it's like Jesus was hanging out with murderers, prostitutes, all everybody in between. And he said, do not judge others, therefore that be judged. Who am I to judge, right? Like I have no say, I have no power in what you do with your life and your business. That's none of my business. And like you said, the issue with our people is they don't know how to mind their business. And they like to and this is the thing I have with religion, I would say in general, is they like to pinpoint things in the Bible that fit their narrative. But it's like, did you keep reading? There's a whole nother verse, or there's a whole nother page, or the whole nother chapter. Not just that one little specific thing that you feel like points to your point. But if you keep reading down, there's a whole nother section about this specific issue. But anyway, that's just my little rant about it. I just wish people would be a little bit more open-minded.
I agree.
It's not going to happen.
Humility first.
Humility first. I accept that. All right. So let me see. I have more questions for you, but I know I don't want to take too much of your time here. I want to talk about why Black women are not as desired by Black men. Okay.
I do want to give a disclaimer. I might not be the best person because I'm not heterosexual. So
Right.
I'm going to just try to.
Just give us a general.
We Black people, like I've mentioned before, our very existence today is literally nothing short of miracle and the grace of God, because we are the embodiment of resilience. All the things that has been thrown at us, yet we still stand. We are paying for it in so many different ways, in our pain. But the pain is a lot. It's a lot of it's a lot. And I think because Black men are men, they are closer to patriarchy. That illusory promise of patriarchy has a whole lot of hold on them. And patriarchy coupled with white supremacy is even stronger. Not only are you not man enough yet until you have money, you are not even white, and in order for you to compete, you need to work so hard for you to have this amount of financial validation. This is capitalism. This is how capitalism stays alive. So all of this trickles down to white supremacy, what's it called? Patriarchy and capitalism. These systems, these perverse systems that I've talked about so many times on my platforms, is what's really killing us. And because we're Black people, we're burned the most as a result of how far we are in proximity to these things, because we have to work so hard to achieve them. So because the Black man is so busy working so hard because of how far he is from these systems, because he's Black, he has to work 2-3 times as hard compared to a white man to even get a taste of any type of illusory promise. That creates a lot of frustration. That is a lot of energy that you're burning, that you're losing, energy that you could be using to get back to yourself, to build your own community. And for him, he feels like the average Black man, not everyone, of course, feels like the way that they can overcome this is if they can embody and pursue white ideals, white standards, like white women, lighter skinned women, and so on and so forth, white validation, white standards. And for him, a Black woman is not it's not a representation of that. So for him, it's easier for him to try to level up with someone who can bring him closer to that thing that he's being denied of, that white
So you think that's
supremacist.
why a lot of Black men choose women of other races because they feel like not you, but because they feel like those women can get them closer to what they need to quote unquote achieve the dream versus a Black woman.
So it's not Black men, it's successful Black men that do
Successful
this.
Black men. Okay.
Yes. So, and for them, that is their children. Okay. Everybody claims Black Lives Matter, but your kids don't look Black. But that's a whole other conversation. So that is basically the whole point of having children. That's the reason why people have children, so that your essence can continue with their children. So for you as a Black man, you hold the power to try to correct anything that for you has subdued you from achieving your max in life. And for a lot of Black people, it's our skin tone, our hair texture, or the way we talk. To come from Nigeria to America to have their kids, you have
Absolutely.
even Nigerian parents who try so hard to make sure that their kids don't have an Igbo accent. They have to have an American accent and things like that, because to them, their Nigerian accent is a limitation. So it's very important for their kids to have an American accent, to have this and that, so that they can compete. So because a black man, or because a man has so much power based on the patriarchal system, the man can choose who can birth his child, so that that child can be closer to that thing that he was denied of. So that's why successful black men like to, on average, like to marry women who are lighter skinned, so that their kids could be somehow in proximity closer to that thing that they've been denied of.
Well, Uche, I can literally
My opinion, no. My opinion. I
don't
could be
come for
wrong.
him in the comments. I beg you, please.
They can come. They can come, Chad. Shout out to Thick Skin. I think they've been coming for me since. So yeah, but it's important that I say that this is just my perspective. I'm not
Yes.
speaking for all black men, because statistically, on average, black men still prefer to marry and procreate with black women. It's just, so it's important to remember that. But yes, when it comes to successful black men, and of course, my definition of success is very different. But what capitalism calls success is money.
Right.
When you see black men who have money, a lot of them do not procreate with black women.
Yeah.
They might start
That's
off
true.
when they're broke,
That's
but
true.
as the money gets higher, the
Yeah.
skin tone gets lighter.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. All right. Well, Uche, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. Let everyone know where they can find you again, where they can, hear some of your thoughts and see your videos and support you and all that good stuff.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me today. And I hope I did well, because I'm a bit, disoriented today. It's been a long, busy day.
You're
So I'm
fine.
just,
You're
I'm just a lot
fine.
more coherent. But you can find me on my podcast on YouTube as Let's Talk About Us with Uche on all podcast platforms. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. I feel like there's one more, Thread, and also Twitter. I don't really use Twitter. At LTAU with Uche. It's just an acronym with Let's Talk About Us with Uche. LTAU with Uche.
Right. Well, everybody go support Uche on all his platforms, and support us too. We're on Instagram
Course.
and Facebook. I'm not on TikTok because I can't work it, but I will figure it out at some point. But it is the Foreign Lady Podcast. And we are also on YouTube, so make sure you support us at the Foreign Lady Podcast. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you all next time. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.